Today in Python, we're going to make a checklist. So let's start with a class and let's call it check. This will basically just be one of the items that we can be editing and checking off. First, we'll just need an initialization, and really that's all we'll need because we just need to set some values here. All we need is our name, description, and of course, whether it's been checked or not. But we actually don't need to set that here. We can always just have that by default set to false whenever we initialize it. So check, we need to say self.check, and it's going to be equal to false, and self.name will be equal to name, and self.description will be set to description. Now we probably want to have some things we can do in this check. We can have edit, and we can have delete. Delete should probably be outside of it though, because we're going to have a list called check underscore list, and by default it'll be blank, but we'll be adding to this as we go on. And in this edit, we're just going to say self, and now new description, so just description, and self.description equals description. We can edit that later so that it says the description, but for now we can just say that. Now we're going to need some functions. Basically, we need one to add, we need one to remove, and we need one to check off. These will be outside of the check since we want to be editing this list here first, finding out which of the ones the player is talking about, and then editing it through here. So let's make a fully different function as well, and this will be getting the player's check item, the specific item they're talking about. So we'll make this and we'll call it get item. And it won't take anything in for now. And all we need is a for loop for item in checklist. And we'll say player input equals input which item. And here we will be printing off all the items. So item.name. And all we're going to be checking for is if the user's input is equal to one of these names. Let's actually put this on this side, just so that the player can actually know what the name is. Awesome. Now we'll want to have another for loop for item in checklist, and we'll check if the player input is equal to the item name. And if it is, then we'll say that we're going to return that item. So that get item will equal the item that the player decides on. We'll say print choose an item. And then here we can actually just say get item again. Awesome. So just say to choose an item over and over and over again until eventually the player finally actually chooses one of the items that they had. And of course we want to go to the top here and check if item list or checklist is equal to just a blank list. Then we're going to return none. Because we don't want it to go forever if there's literally just nothing in here. Now we can go to add, we can say, we make a new function called add. And it's just going to go and it's going to get an item, a new item. And we just want the name. And we want the description. So name equals name. And description equals description. And then we're going to make a new check. And we're going to put in our name and our description. And we're going to say that we're going to append it to our check list. So check underscore list dot append. And we'll append that check to the list. Perfect. So that's all we really need to do there. In remove, all we need to do is we get an item, and then we remove that from the list. And it's really easy with the get item. We just call get item. We say item equals get item. And then we say checklist dot remove that said item. Perfect, easy as that. And in check, define check. All we want to do is say item equals get item, so we can get the user to decide which item. And then we'll say item.check equals true. And now we just need a main to go through all of these commands and decide which one to do. So we'll make a main, and we'll just say print, this is the checklist, print a new line, what command, and then we can print a new line, and we can say which commands there are. So we've got add, remove, check, and then we also have this edit thing up here, but we don't need to worry about that yet because we haven't added it quite yet. And we'll say add, remove, check. Perfect. And now we can have an input here. And we'll just say I equals input because it's just whatever command the person decides on. If I is equal to add. Let's actually put these in lowercase just so that the player isn't confused at all. So if I equals add, then we want to do add. If I is equal to, or we want to do else if. Else if I equals remove, then we're going to want to do remove. Else if I equals check, then we'll want to check. Awesome. And if everything fails, then we probably want to do something there. Let's make a help menu. So if someone is really confused about what to do, then they'll understand. So help menu here. And let's just say print a very simple message. It's just going to say, please type one of the commands letter for letter. And now here we can just say help. And of course I need to actually call main, so I'll do that. Okay, now if I press F5, what command? Add, remove, check. Please type one of the commands letter for letter. So it didn't really wait. That's because I actually need to call input here. Now if I press F5, this is the checklist. What command? Add, remove, or check. I will add because I don't even have one. The name will be hello world. The description will be wow, first item. And that's it. We probably want to loop through if we want to have more than one command being said. So at the very end of main, I'll just call main again. Add, remove, or check. Let's say add. Hello, goodbye. What command? Remove. Which item? So this lists off this item hello, so I'll just choose hello, and now it's gone. So if I said check, it would cause an error because there are no items anymore. So the player will have to be careful in here, but honestly, as long as they're just adding items and editing them a little bit, it should be fine. One more function I'm going to make is the edit function. I'll say item equals get item, then input description equals new description, and then item dot edit, because we made this function here up here called edit, and in edit I'll just put in the new description. Awesome. Now up here I actually want to do something here. I'm going to say print new description equals self.description. And now one last command I'm going to make is I'm going to make a view command so we can actually see all of the items and whether they're checked or not. So I'll go here and I'll make another elif I is equal to view. And then I'll make a view function. And let's go up here. And at the very top, we're just going to view every item in the checklist. So define view. And it's just going to be for I in checklist, print i.name. I'm just going to actually print that by itself. And then I'm going to print i.description. I'll actually make an if statement here. If i.check is equal to true, so if it's been checked off, then say checked. And then if i.check equals false, then I'll say incomplete. Awesome. So let's check if view works. I'll make a couple items here. And I'm going to check one of them off. So we have hello and bye. And now if I press view, then it looks at it and it says view, hello, item, incomplete. It says by, below, checked off. So that's how you make a very simple checklist in Python. Thanks for watching.